Well, hi there, and welcome along to IrishRacing.com. I'm Ed Quigley, and you join us for episode 2 of Cheltenham Eyecatchers. Now, coming up on today's show, we're going to be having a look at the Willie Mullins Gordon Elliott battle, or the lack of it at the moment. How can mighty Gordon start getting his string firing again as we head into the spring? We're going to be touching upon some of his stable stars with that view in mind, and then we're going to have a look. The likes of the Triumph Hurdle. Is it a 3-horse race? And is Ballyburn the Irish banker on the Wednesday of the Cheltenham Festival as things stand? And perhaps a couple of eye catchers in the traditional sense at the end of the show. Of course, we need someone with an erudite view on things to take us away and guide us through the next half hour or so. Donn McClean, I'm delighted to say, joins me once again. And Don, from an Irish point of view on the track, more of a quiet weekend fair, I think it's fair to say. But there's probably more, as we were discussing off air, there's more racing going on off the track than on it at the moment. Horses dropping like flies for Gold Cups, Arkles, you know what? It's kind of anti-post silly season, shall we say.
Yeah, that's it, Ed. What a big shame that Sergino was out for starters. Like the clash between him and Majbur, that was going to be one of the clashes of the Cheltenham Festival for sure. That the best juvenile hurdler from Britain last season taking on the best juvenile hurdler from Ireland last season over fences, and that's a pity. That's not going to happen. Sergino missed the game Spirit Chase, and then I suppose with the passage of time we became aware, or Nicky Henderson became aware, that the setback was a wee bit more serious than first thought. So that's a shame that he's out, and he's been joined by a couple of would-be Arkle contenders as well. So the Arkle has been cutting up a little bit, and I suppose, as we were saying off air, that brings other horses into it who might have run in, let's say, the Mayor's Chase, for example, or in the Grand Annual, or in another novices race, that they might be taking a chance in the Arkle because it's just been weakened a little bit even in the last couple of days. But that, I suppose, that's this time of year, isn't it, Ed? There'll probably be more between now and the Cheltenham Festival as well.
Sure is. It's to say that I think statistically the same amount of horses get injured in October, but it doesn't seem to matter as much then, does it? When you're sat on something at 33-1, that's now 7-2, and then goes west. But no, in all seriousness, hoping those horses back on track soon. And Sergino, as you say, seemed a little bit worse than first feared. He's in an equine hospital from the last bulletin of Nicky Henderson. Fingers crossed. The 7 Barrow star gets back to full health soon. Right, we'll kick on with the show and the topics as advertised. Topic number 1, Willie Mullins versus Gordon Elliott fight, or lack of it at the moment. This was a bit of a follow-up to a few statistical rounds going on social media where, just for a bit of context, the Gordon Elliott team operating around an 8% strike rate in the, quote, post-Christmas period for February. Slightly down on that as well. In previous years, the same period would have yielded 10%, 14%, 15%, 13%, 15% strike rate for Gordon Elliott. So a load of word salad there, Don. Say Gordon Elliott is operating around half the strike rate per norm at this time of year. Do you see this as a symptomatic bigger problem going further forward? Is this a case of statisticians getting too excited with themselves and their spreadsheets? Or, I mean, let's face it, Jerry Colomb, of course, is on the sidelines, one of his stable stars. And, a few of his horses haven't perhaps, like Firefox, perhaps quite kicked on as expected. Do you see Elliott coming back over the next couple of months? And I suppose, how does he kind of get some upper hand on Willie Mullins in the process?
Yeah, I think at this time of year, he kind of dips anyway a little bit. Gordon does, and actually, the last week has been really good. He had 3 winners at Navan there on Sunday. Honestly, Policy Maxim on the Boyle Hurdley, the 1, 2, 3 in the 10-up chase. He's had 6 winners in the last week. So yeah, and his March statistics, as we were discussing off air, they're a lot better. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And as you said, Jerry Colomb, he's a big miss. I mean, he was a prime Gold Cup candidate at the start of the season, and it's just unlucky that he's out for the season. Like Gordon had 3 winners at the Cheltenham Festival last season, and he joined Fuch Walwyn on 40 winners at the Cheltenham Festival. He's now joined 4th at the Cheltenham Festival after Willie Mullins, Nicky Henderson, Paul Nicholls, and level with Fuch Walwyn. So the Cheltenham Festival, that's when his horses, obviously he's targeting horses at the Cheltenham Festival all season, most notably Tuiapu, who we're going to come on to now in a second. Like, he's best when he's fresh. He hasn't run since the Hatton's Grace Hurdle. He did that had the exact same plan last year, and Tuiapu went and ran out an impressive winner of the Hatton's Grace or of the Stairs Hurdle. Brighter days ahead. He skipped the Dublin Racing Festival with her, so she's going to be going on now. She'd been busy in the run up to Christmas, so you can understand why he skipped the Dublin Racing Festival and went on. She's going to go wherever she's going to go. We don't know yet. We're going to know hopefully next week where she's going to go. Romeo Coolio, he missed the Dublin Racing Festival as well. He's gone straight to the Supreme. And actually, Gordon Elliott's kind of Cheltenham team, it's shaping up really well. You've got the Yellow Clay and better days ahead in Croke Park to go along with his flag bearer Tuiapu. Calypso Chance, he looks like a seriously good bumper horse, and he's going to be high in the betting for the champion bumper. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it at the minute. I think his team for Cheltenham is shaping up really nicely.
Absolutely, it's definitely quality over quantity, and who needs stats, as you say? If a couple of those horses are quite a formidable string when you start to put it together, isn't it, Don? If a couple of those go in and win at Prestbury Park, kind of all to be forgotten, and it's important for the competition as a whole, isn't it? I suppose in racing with, I was reading Paul Nicholls' stable tour, not really going to have much running at the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously, we know how fragile some of these horses can be, who start to disappear, like Sagino gone, etc. Gordon be able to serve it up to some of those Willie Mullins hot pots, as you say, for the competition of racing as a whole. It's definitely something we'll be keen to see.
Look, Willie Mullins is phenomenal, and at all times. But I suppose most notably at Cheltenham, like to train his 100th Cheltenham Festival winner last season, that was kind of crazy that anybody could reach 100 Cheltenham Festival winners. Jasmine DeVoe brought up his 100th. Then he didn't have any winners on the Thursday actually last year. Then he had three more on the Friday to get to 103. And I think I was just looking at it there. I think he's got 9 festival favourites at the minute as things stand, plus a lot of backup to the favourites as well, including in some of the same races. So look, you'd imagine Willie Mullins is going to have a really good Cheltenham Festival as well. But he sets the bar by which he's measured. That's the problem whenever expectation levels are really high. So if he kind of has a moderate Cheltenham Festival, then people will look at that and go, he didn't do as well as we thought he would. But that's the nature of success, isn't it? You set the barometer by which you're measured in the future as well.
Well, back to the Gordon Elliott topic, then, Don. This leads nicely on to Hoopu, who we touched upon, being the stable star, the flag bearer, if you like. The Stayers hurdle scene in general is not one that looks particularly strong and full of, how should we say, winners and waiting for that race. Is this straightforward for Hoopu? Is there a joker in the pack here? Is there perhaps an unseen complication we're overlooking? Because provided we get a little bit of cut in the ground, asterisks, he is the class act, as you say. This tried and tested fresh preparation cannot be seen as detrimental.
Yeah, look, he's having the same preparation as he had last year. I remember when he won the Hatton's Grace Hurdle last season, so the early part of last season, and Gordon said afterwards he's going to go straight to the Stairs Hurdle now, and we're kind of like, really? Yeah. But it's some plan and some, I suppose, brave in one way to miss out all of the season because your horse is best fresh. Brought him to the Stairs Hurdle, a race in which he finished third the previous season, and then second, and then third again. After winning the Galmoy Hurdle at Gorham Park at the Thyestes Chase meeting in late January. So even that they deemed was close enough to Cheltenham. So they skipped that last year and then was really impressive winning the Stairs Hurdle. Same again this year. He was beaten by Lossiemouth in the Hatton's Grace Hurdle in a race that was run at a sedate enough pace, which didn't suit him and suited her. So yeah, look, all going on to the Stairs Hurdle. He's the standard setter. He's still only 8. He's running 2 Stairs Hurdles now. It kind of feels like he's been around for a long time, but he's only just turned 8. So yeah, look, he's the one they have to beat. Competition for him, Home by the Lee is probably a better horse this year than he was last year. Like, he was good at Navan, good again at Leopardstown when he won the Savills Hurdle, and he came under a ride early enough in that race on the run around the home turn, but you kind of always knew that he was going to find, because that's just the way that he likes to run. He likes to be behind the bridle, and to me that's a positive trait in a Stairs Hurdle candidate. Lucky Place, you have to put him into the mix as well. Like, he's still lightly raced. He's only 6. He's only had 7 runs over hurdles. He was good in winning at Ascot and then at Cheltenham last time. And the runner-up the last day from Cheltenham, Gall Road, went and won the Cleve Hurdle next time. So that's solid form. and we know that he goes well at Cheltenham as well. And I think Rocky's Diamond is a player in the race, Ed. Like he's a very young horse. He's only 5, and no 5-year-old. I don't think any 5-year-old has ever won the Stairs Hurdle, but not many try. Like the last 5-year-olds were in 2015, I think, when Tiger Roll was one of them who ran in the race. So not many try, and he won the Galmoy Hurdle last time. No 5-year-old had ever won the Galmoy Hurdle in, I think, 20 odd renewals of the race. So he's an unusual 5-year-old. Declan Quigley threw him into the Savills Hurdle. He finished 3rd that day behind Home by the Lee and Bob Ollinger. And he didn't have a great run through the race. He didn't jump that well. He kind of got a wee bit squeezed at the top of the home straight and then stayed on. He was better at Gorham Park in the Galmoy Hurdle the last day. His jumping was way better. He got into a nice rhythm by Shane Fitzgerald from early, and he stayed on really well. He got home by just over a length from the Devil's Coachman, but he just kind of shaped like he had more in hand than that. He shaped like he was only just doing as much as he needed to do. And he's only had 6 runs over hurdles. He's still a very young horse. He stays the trip well. And yeah, I think he could be a lively outsider there against Hooper.
Indeed, perhaps slightly more to Hooper's plate than initially given kind of credence to. There's one horse, funny enough, we haven't mentioned, trained by Gordon Elliott, who I quite fancy to run a huge race in this. That is the Wool Park. Who listening to Gordon Elliott himself in recent stable interviews and bulletins, pretty much seems to be going this way as opposed to running off top weight in the per temps final. I do think the Wool Park in here, he came up the Cheltenham Hill really well, didn't he, earlier in the season? That form doesn't look too bad at all. He just looks your old-fashioned stare, isn't he? He's more of a Paisley Park in the sense of, if you watch that race back when he won, earlier in the autumn, he came off the bridle a long way from home, but he really hit the hill and flew up it. And I didn't think he ran too badly at all when pitched in at the relative deep end for one inexperienced to Grade 1 company at Ascot just before Christmas, staying on very strongly to finish 4th on that occasion. I just think he looks that out-and-out stayer who could easily be playing a part in that. So, yeah, the Gordon Elliott malaise might soon be over, mightn't it, if he's got him and Tahupu in with a shout come next month. But yeah, shaping up to be an absolute cracker. If I could push you for an each way against the favourite, and then Don, who would you be siding with at this stage?
Yeah, Rocky's Diamond. I think he can improve again. He's likely raced, and Declan Quigley, I think he is thinking of it. Like, he's definitely thinking of it, but I think it seems that he's more likely to run in it than not. And yeah, I just think he's a bit under the radar. I think he can improve again. He stays well. He's got a bit of class. He won well the last day with a little bit in hand, and yeah, I think he's got enough potential to and he's unexposed enough to improve again and be a real player in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of an unusual profile, as Don says, but yeah, Rocky's Diamond could be the absolute value play here, couldn't he? At 14-1, if you take Tahupu out of it. I think the general consensus is you can throw a blanket over 7 or 8 of these. Moving on to another race, which has really started to get everyone licking their lips. Fingers crossed these horses can make the gig, but the Triumph Hurdle scene. Lalamba, East India Dock, and we'll put in Hello Neighbour as well as the flagship horse from the Emerald Isle in this division. Do you see this simply as a 3-runner race, even a 2-runner race, Don? Or do you think the market is being dismissive of, let's face it, a whole host of unexposed juveniles who potentially could be making the journey over?
Yeah, like it's, I suppose, yeah, there's so many unknowns in a Triumph Hurdle, Ed, by definition, so many unexposed types in it. Like Mon the Man, for example, who finished second behind Lalamba the last day. He's a Peter Jockey Club horse. He's got a rating of 111 on the flat. He was just too keen the last day. So if he learned to settle a bit, he could be a player. St. Lucie, she didn't run a race the last day in the Spring Hurdle. Galileo Dame finished off a race really strongly. She's a 90-odd rated horse off the flat. And that was only her second run over hurdles the last day in the Spring Hurdle. And the Spring Hurdle, as we know, it's not just the winner who goes on to be a big player in the Triumph Hurdle. The beaten horses can often reverse placings with the winners of the race. So going all the way back to Countrywide Flame. So yeah, I wouldn't have it down as a 3-horse race. That said, I do agree that the 3 at the top of the market, obviously, as the market suggests, they're the 3 big players in the race.
Do you have a view on which, if I could offer you one of the 3 now, who would you be siding with?
Yeah, I'm a Hello Neighbour fan.
Right.
Look, you can see Lamba has been really high profile, and he beat Mondeman the last day, and that race is working out really well. The third horse came out and won at Ludlow next time, Vianney. The fifth horse, St. Pancras, sprang a big shock at Musselburgh. So that and Lamba could hardly have been any more impressive visually than he was. You've got East India Dock in there. He's 3 for 3 over hurdles. He's again continues to do what he needs to do. He's an 80-odd rated horse off the flat. So you definitely have to have him in it, and they're big players. But I just think that, we don't have a really strong line of form between the Irish and the British juveniles. So we don't really know which are better. And I thought Hello Neighbour should have been closer to the top 2 British horses than he is. Like he's got a rating of 97 off the flat after just 2 runs. So he's got the potential to be higher on the flat. He's only had 2 runs over hurdles as well. He won them both. He won the Grade 2 hurdle, juvenile hurdle at Leopardstown over Christmas when he did lots wrong. His jumping wasn't good. He was keen and free. And then last time there at the Dublin Racing Festival in the spring hurdle, Gavin Cromwell fitted a hood for the first time. Keith Dunhu rode him really patiently out the back. He travelled really well into the home straight. He was the only horse on the bridle turning for home. And then he picked up. Now, he didn't go away from his rivals like it looked like he might, but I'm kind of hoping and putting that down to just the fact that he got there and he was doing enough as opposed to a lack of ability. And when Galileo Dame was closing, going to the line, he kind of seemed to arrest her the way that she was eating into his lead, didn't she? Or didn't he? And I thought he won with a bit more in hand, a faster pace, which he'll surely get with East India Dock in the race in the time hurdle. That will suit him better. And I think he should be shorter than he is.
Indeed, it's fascinating insight on. And Gavin Cromwell, very much, you've gone very similar word for word on what he was saying when pushed on topic of Hello Neighbour, saying that pretty much isn't any collateral form to judge the top English juveniles against Hello Neighbour, but he's hoping the way the race will be run at Prestbury Park will play even more into the hands of Hello Neighbour, who are a really strong pace. He's a strong traveller, but seems to have that nice little blend of a little bit of laziness at the end of the race as well. So perhaps saves a little bit for himself, which could be crucial, of course, up the Cheltenham Hill. Yeah, funny enough, I didn't think you were going to say that, but I'm with Hello Neighbour at the prices as things stand as well. And we all know Gavin Cromwell had a very good Cheltenham Festival last year, and his strike rate, which is a hot topic of this show, it is pretty good, isn't it, when sending horses over to Prestbury Park. So yeah, should be a really exciting race, and fingers crossed we can cotton wool them for a month or so and get them to the gig. All right, speaking of other profile horses, topic number 4, Ballyburn. Quite simply, Don, is Ballyburn the banker of the Wednesday? Is the Irish banker? Or do you perhaps feel he's still slightly priced up on his hurdling form, on potential? 7 to 4 for you, Ballyburn, yes or no? If you're a no, where would you be looking in regards to elsewhere in the Brown advisory market?
Well, I think there's value beyond him, Ed, but I think he's the right favourite for the race. Yeah, right. like he's he's such a good hurdler, as you said. Thought he was good on his debut, his chasing debut at Punchestown. I thought he jumped pretty well. Then look, you have to put a line through his wayward lad, chase, run just 2 miles at Kempton on good to soft ground against Sergino. It was all too much for him, and it was just the distance was too sharp, too much of a speed test for him. Up to 2 miles 5.5 furlongs the last day at Leopardstown, and he was very good. I thought he settled well. Paul Tennant was nice and patient on him, got him in behind. He didn't settle completely, but he settled a lot better than he had done at Kempton. And I thought he beat a good horse in Croke Park. And as I said before, I think Croke Park is an underrated horse. Like, he's a dual Grade 1 winner over fences. And to me, Croke Park at the start of the season was a real dire stare. Like, he won his beginner's chase, his first run of fences over 3 miles. And I thought that stamina was going to be all the further or the greater the test of stamina, the better for him. But then he won the Drinmore Chase in a race that actually turned into a speed test. And that was down to Sam Ewing, his jockey. He kind of stacked them up in front and then quickened. The sections tell you that it wasn't run at a fast pace. It was more through pace and stamina that he won that race. And then he beat Better Days ahead of Christmas. So Croke Park, to me, was maybe not so much anymore, but he was going into the race at the Dublin Racing Festival. He was underrated, and Ballyburn beat him well. Croke Park actually landed over the final fence in front, and Ballyburn came away from him up the run and beat him by 5 lengths. So to me, that was a really good performance, and it was Ballyburn back on track. We know he's got Cheltenham Festival winning form as well, so he's the right favourite. Dancing City is in the mix as well, obviously trained by Willie Mullins too. He finished third in the Albert Bartlett Hurdle last season when he was just a bit keen through the early part of the race, and then he's been, he's done nothing wrong over fences. He's a staying horse as well. He won the Grade 1 3-mile novices hurdle at the Punchestown Festival at the end of last season, so he's a player in the race. But I like better days ahead. Again, we're back to the Gordon Elliott thread again. I just love the Martin Pipe Hurdle. It's a race that it's often underrated. And last year, the first 3 Waterford Whispers was behind him, and Quai de Bourbon and Answer to Cape, and the 4 of them were clear. Like, it was a strong race last year. And this is the race that Galopin de Champs won. Banbridge won it as well. King George winner. Sir de Champs won it. Don Poley won it. Kilolta Vic won it. He would have won an Irish Gold Cup had he not fallen at the last. So it's a race that, like, it's a handicap, but it's a race that does spawn staying chasers of the future, top class staying chasers of the future. And better days ahead. Then he went to Punchestown and he finished third behind Dancing City in that 3-mile Grade 1 novices hurdle at the end of last season. They didn't go a great pace in that race. We know Punchestown is more a speed test than Cheltenham, and I thought he did well to finish third behind him. He beat Sade Steele on his debut this season. He was beaten by Croke Park in the fog when he was staying on. A couple of strides after the line, he was up. And then on Sunday, he ran in the 10-up chase. He won it. He only got home by a neck from Stellar Story, but I thought for most of that race, he really did an awful lot right.
Class. Yeah.
Wasn't he? Like, his jumping was so good. He was like the side-on view down the back straight at Navan. He was gaining ground at nearly all his fences. He just seemed to love jumping fences. And, maybe he hadn't run since Christmas. Maybe Gordon had left plenty to work on to bring him, that race would bring him forward. And the 10-up chase, it's not a good race for Cheltenham. It's not a big pointer at the Cheltenham Festival, but I think that's kind of more because the horses run either at Christmas or at the Dublin Racing Festival now, and they don't run in the top staying chasers don't run in the race. Better Days Ahead missed the Dublin Racing Festival. Then he came on here, and actually it's quite early in the year this year, the 10-up chase, so he's got 4.5 weeks before the Brand Advisory chase. So yeah, I think if he pulled away and won by 6 lengths on Sunday, that would have been better, obviously.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
But I still think he did an awful lot right. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And it's kind of symptomatic of the overall data. Perhaps the Gordon Elliott horses aren't quite firing all cylinders, aren't quite at 80%. You can flip it around the other way, can't you, to whichever narrative you like and say, well, with that in mind, there should only be more improvement to come to get him fired up to 100% for Presby Park next month. Yeah, it's interesting. But I'm still not totally sold on Ballyburn over fences. It does get quite low to a few obstacles. I've gone for a couple of bigger prices for what it's worth from a while back. Quai de Bourbon looks like a 9-mile chaser to me. I think he'll really come into his own over this trip. I think the forgotten horse in the market, Don, is Gorgeous Tom. Henry de Bromhead, of course, looked outpaced over 2.5. Again, that Croke Park form keeps kind of coming back to the table, doesn't it? Beating only a length in the end at Fairy House in the Drinmore back on the 1st of December. But that doesn't really tell the full story. It kind of dropped to last 2 out, was niggled along, but didn't half come home with a rattle. And it was interesting listening to Henry de Bromhead's comments saying, we've been waiting to go 3 miles with the horse. Well, we're going to do it for the first time at the Cheltenham Festival in a Brown Advisory. To me, he just looks like a horse who should absolutely relish a proper staying test. And I still think he's a big enough price at around 25-1 or there or thereabouts. So another yard who I'm hoping their horses come back to flourishing form, which they often tend to do so, as I say, once the daffodils are out and spring's here for Cheltenham, etc. So yes, Ballyburn banker. I'm presuming it's not a banker for you then, Don, for your overall sentiment.
No, not a banker. At respective prices, I would prefer better days ahead. But I see where you're coming from on Gorgeous Tom, absolutely. And the Drinmore is a race that horses, it's a staying novices race, isn't it? At that time of the season, horses normally improve for stepping out and trip from it.
Indeed. So we've got 2 each ways against the mighty Ballyburn in that one. Right, leaving away bankers and 6-4 favourites. So we're going to go for perhaps something a little bit more dark horse for our final topic of this show here, Don. Horses of Cheltenham handicaps for day 1 of the Cheltenham Festival. You've got obviously the Ultima, the Fred Winter / Boodles, and National Hunt Chase Novices Handicap, as it is now, slight change in dynamic for this year's festival race. So have you got one for us here, Don, which we can scribble down and get our bets on with?
I'm going to stick with the Gavin Cromwell team, Ed. Total luck in the Fred Winter Hurdle. I think he's a really interesting horse. He ran at Cheltenham at the December meeting. He was only beaten in neck by the dead heaters. And then he ran in a handicap hurdle at Punchestown there a couple of weeks ago, and he stayed on well to finish third. He kind of got a pace whenever they quickened, and then he stayed on afterwards. The pace was slow. It was 113 finishing speed percentage, which tells you that it was a sedately run race. It didn't seem to suit him, but he stayed on really well. He came home. The vet reported he was coughing afterwards. He lost his near four shoe as well.
Right.
So you can probably mark him up on that run. And that's the race that Eagles Reign won last year, Russell Sullivan's horse, and then went on and ran a massive race in the Fred Winter, finished second in it. So it's a good pointer to it. He's got an Irish mark of 125 now. I'm sure he'll get a few pounds extra going to Britain, but he's a lightly raced horse. You mentioned the Gavin Cromwell, his ability to have horses peak on the day, especially going to Cheltenham, and total luck with 3 runs under his belt over hurdles now. Yeah, I think he could be. He's high enough in the market now, in the sense that there is a market for the Fred Winter, but I think he'd be a big player in the race.
Yeah, fascinating, as you say. That he's a horse who looks as though he'll thrive through it from his experience, and everything that could have gone wrong pretty much has gone wrong. I'm just reading the steward's report on that horse last time out, as you say, coughing, problems with the shoes, etc. But yeah, Irish marker 125 should see him slot in very nicely into that race. Well, for my handicap selection, I'm going for the home team here, Don, for a race which I think the Irish have won once since the days of medieval court jesters, and that is the Ultima on day one. I think, was it Dundee, if I've pronounced that correctly, in 2006, I think probably would have been, or 07, one of those years would have been the last time the Irish did it. But I'm looking for the home team here. Masaccio will be my selection for Alan King, obviously owned by the McNeil family, whose chairman, of course, Max McNeil, is on the board of Ultima Solutions, and they sponsor the race. So I'd imagine it'd be in their interest to try and win their own race for the first time. But I just thought Masaccio has been crying out for a galloping test over 3 miles here. Ran over 2.5 on trials day, stayed on quite stoutly up the hill, I thought, in a real eye-catching fashion. Yes, was found wanted at grade 1 level, around the kind of tight turns on good ground at Kempton over Christmas, behind the jukebox man, etc. But I don't think that was going to be his bag. He got much closer to that rival at Newbury, again, more of a galloping test, even though over a shorter trip. I just think left-handed up to 3 miles. He's got one mark of 143, which puts him right in the perfect bracket, if you like, for winners of that race from a trends perspective. And of course, novices also have a very healthy strike rate in this. I think they've won 4 of the last 10, and a whole host of novices have placed as well, by the virtue of the handicapper hasn't got to them yet. And so if they're a good jumper, they tend to have a few pounds up their sleeve. So yeah, one for the home team on day one. It could potentially be only one of the home team with now Sergino gone. And from our point of view, Don, we're just hoping Constitution Hill can make the gig. Otherwise, there will be proper alarm bells going off from Team GB, if you like. But no, a couple there for your trackers. That was Total Look, wasn't it? In the Fred Winter, who is available around the 6-1 mark. Looks pretty sure to be lining up and getting a run in the race, lined with Masaccio, a double figure price, around 10-1 in the Ultima. Should go well for the Alan King team. My thanks to you, Don. That's been absolutely wonderful. Been lots to chew on there. Lots to ponder. And just very briefly, moving further forward to week ahead, I suppose what we got the Kingwell at Wincanton, Ascot. There's some half decent racing, isn't there, in terms of the GB action? Anything in Ireland you're going to be particularly looking out for? I think doesn't my old friend William Money potentially might be trying to book his ticket to the Supreme at Punchestown on Sunday.
Yeah, no, it's kind of we're getting into that part of the year now where it's kind of last chance to have a run before Cheltenham if it's on. And then we have obviously the Grand National Weights are out today, embargoed obviously until later on. But then the Fairyhouse to Bobby Joe Chase is on next weekend. So that's the race in which Ian Maximus ran last year before going on to win the Grand National. So yeah, it's kind of this weekend. Maybe this weekend is kind of last runs if you're thinking about having a go at Cheltenham.
Absolutely. Last chance saloon to book your ticket to Prestbury Park which is 4 weeks today at the time of recording. Yeah, my thanks to you, Don. Thank you very much for listening at home. And of course, don't forget to check out all the latest news, views, and features on irishracing.com. This has been good fun. Join us next time for episode 3 of Cheltenham Eyecatchers. Bye for now.